Welcome back to Life of the Germ. As promised, I wanted to run it back and um hop on the old outside vibe. Um yeah, I know it's been a minute. This is kind of weird to be back on here again. Um like a little nervous, honestly. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." But yeah, I've just been living for a while. Like I think on my life, I just hit kind of like the reset button, and I was doing like, I was doing too much. I think I was doing way too much, and I was like, I just gotta reset and like slow everything down, and it's been good. I think I had like a lot of brain fog the past few weeks, and then slowly but surely giving myself like, it's weird, like it didn't just take like 1 or 2 days. It was like weeks of like from the last time I uploaded to like now where I like have finally started to feel like honestly like myself again. So that's always a plus for sure. But like yeah, it's been an adventure. I don't have like too much to tell you guys. Like the past few weeks I went home for the 4th of July. I was mentioning that in my last video, and it was like good to see everyone and catch up with the people that I really care about. But yeah, the past couple weeks, like, really haven't done much, and I think that's okay. And um, upon like going into this hibernation, should we call it? I think the biggest takeaway is the title of the episode, and I like in like honing in on myself, I was able to find that like if you take care of yourself and are like selfish a little bit and like really not even selfish, like I think I always thought that, but like what I'm realizing now is like you have to put yourself first, and there is no one else, no other piece of yourself or like part of your identity that you can leverage more than that. Like at the end of the day, like you have to do stuff that brings you joy and happiness. And sometimes to other people, it's not going to make a lot of sense, and that's okay. And sometimes you might get backlash for, you're doing that. Why? What is the point of that? Like, that just feels like a waste of time, this or that. And what you have to realize is that's okay. People are going to say stuff, they're going to do things, they're going to say this and that. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with whatever you're doing, that's all that matters. And the really cool part about this is like no matter what anyone tells you or what anyone says, no one can take that away from you. And I it's interesting because lack of self-care in a lot of ways, it presents differently in different individuals, I think. So person X, when they don't take care of themselves, I mean, the surrounding symptoms ultimately turn into like sleepy, stressed, angry. Like there's different emotions that they all agree on, but like how the person expresses those are much different. So I feel like my angry is more so just like I just kind of like I sort of just like stop talking and want to like isolate. I find myself really wanting to do that a lot. But other people, because they're not taking care of themselves, they don't these emotions that are normally pretty easily regulated, small things will like set them off more, right? So like um for example, like I don't know, when like I make a small mistake at my job, like when I take care of myself, I'm like there's this constant like kind of urge and like thing in the back of my head that's like, okay, you made a mistake, it sucks, but like don't beat yourself up over it. Like just know what you did wrong, and then how did you make that mistake, and then don't make it again in the future, right? And then you move on, right? But like other people, like when that happens, like when the self-care goes out the window, it's like I find myself like beating myself up more and more and more. And I think what I've realized is that like the negative, like the loss of hope, like all these things that are just like pretty much just wrapped up in pessimism. I think pessimism in a lot of ways is an easier mindset to attain because it doesn't require a lot of energy. You're just sort of like, oh, this sucks, that sucks, and you're just pointing out all this stuff. Whereas like gratitude and positivity, I think is a little bit more rare because it requires almost you to go against the grain and be like, yeah, this sucks, but I learned this, or I got to do this and that. And I think when you lose your self-care and you lose like prioritizing yourself, what ends up happening is, at least for me, you end up in this slump of like it becomes more and more challenging to like fight the grain, and eventually the current just takes you the other way, and you're like you start to like real, and it's, I don't know, like I think the past few weeks it did feel like a slippery slope there for a while, where it's like once you start it's like and you feel like you just fall off the track so fast, and like eventually you look up and you're like, wow, everything just sucks, and it really is like the truth of the matter is there's reality is exactly what you make it. And it's so cliche, but it's so true. However you program your mind to view a situation is essentially you programming, training, tricking, manipulating, whatever you want to call it, your brain to perceive something a certain way, right? And if every time you perceive it as, and like every time you look for what went wrong here, that's all you're going to see is what went wrong, instead of being like, okay, what went right? And then how do I build on that to make the next time even better, right? And I just think some people have this figured out really well, and some people don't have it figured out at all. And I think a lot of it comes back to like the self-care. And if you're not constantly like putting yourself first and like, what do I like to do? What inspires me? What gets me off the couch? It becomes a pretty miserable life where you're just, again, like you mentioned like, what am I even living for? And like for me, I think when there is a lack of self-care, what happens is like I get brain fog, and when I'm listening to people, I just can't listen because I'm so like wrapped up in something else that's like stressful to me, that it's hard for me to like stay in the moment and like really be there for people when they need it, right? Which I was like, that was like a wake up call for me, where I was like, wait, I want to be able to take care of people that I care about. And if I don't take care of myself, then I'm not going to be able to care for any of these other people. Which I was like, I don't want that, because I enjoy like being able to like help people, and like I just feel like I can make a difference in someone's life. I think there's something so cool about that pretty much everyone can agree with, right? Some people have more patience than it than others. But then there's people that lack self-care that, I think mine is more like internalized, and I don't talk to people as much. Other people, they'll cast all that, and they'll have a bad day, so then they'll take it out on someone else. And that's just, I just, I mean, it both are bad in different ways, but both of those, it's like you don't want to be in that. You don't want to be in that. And that's when I realized in both of these scenarios, you really got to take care of yourself and ask yourself, what are the parts of my identity that make me who I am? And don't say it's just one thing, because I've seen many examples as of late of like, this is my everything. And it's like, guess what? It's almost like when you're in poker and you're like, I'm all in on this one thing, right? And if it goes and it's flourishing really well, that's amazing, right? Say I'm all in on running, right? And like that's all I do is like run, run, run. And then it doesn't work out. Say I get some injury or something. Then it's like the end of the world, right? And now I'm just miserable. I'm like I don't have this piece of identity that I claimed was my entire piece, right? But if you divvy it up a little bit and you put some in running, some in research, some in the podcast, some in, oh, I really like hiking and I really like hanging out with friends and doing this and doing that. You have your hands in all these different pots, and say one, two, three of those things go sour and you lose kind of like motivation or drive for them. Guess what? You lean into those other things more, right? And it's not like you're not all in on the poker table. You're maybe, I don't know, you have a good hand, so you put an eighth of your chips on it, an eighth here, an eighth there. And when you lose an eighth, it sucks, but you're not losing your whole pot, right? And I just think that those things are just very, very tied to each other. And another thing I really learned too in this little stint is I think self-care, when you take care of yourself, weirdly you become, at least for me, I became a lot more sure of myself because self-care focuses you to internalize, what do I like to do, what brings me joy, and how do I essentially like exploit those to feel like meaning in life and to feel like I'm having fun with my life, right? And it focuses you to like hone in on your identity, and therefore when you hone in on your identity, you gain a stronger sense of self, and ultimately a stronger sense of self is very, I think what I've found is very correlated, and I think it leads to a lot more self-confidence because it's like you know what you want, you know what brings you joy. Maybe you don't necessarily know why, but it doesn't matter. And people then will say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And I'll be like, I don't care about your X, Y, and Z because I know that I like it, and your X, Y, and Z doesn't matter because it's me and it's what I like, and you can't tell me what I like, right? And that was like a big wake up call to me. And I think, I feel like the past like year, I was so tapped in, and then the tracks just fell off. But now I'm like, it's good because the first time when I had it, I didn't really know what I was doing, right? And I was gaining confidence and I didn't really know why. But now I think I'm realizing it was just because I was doing the things that I really enjoyed, hanging out with people, doing whatever. I don't know. And my biggest thing is like, if you can help a homie out, like just don't rip on someone that has an interest that's a little out there or weird. It's like the more you can embrace that, the more you can like help them cultivate that into something that that person is really gonna like, right? Because for some people, it's so hard for them to take the jump, and all they need is just one person being like, "That's so stupid. Why would you do that? No, no, no," and they'll stop, you know. And even for someone like me, that like I, after doing some reflection, feel like I really have these things that I've like realized I really enjoy. It's still really hard to hear that, you know, and it just doesn't feel good. So if you can, I don't know, I'm always about like just bringing positivity to people's life. Like add to someone's cup, don't take away from the cup. Like it just doesn't make sense to really ever take away from the cup, in my opinion. Like, and yeah, that's what I'd say. I feel like I really learned a lot like the past couple of weeks. And as much as I'd like to be like I'm gonna upload every week, I think I harped on this like a few months ago, but I think it's just more like, do I have the bandwidth to be here and be present and like feel like I have something to share, right? And if I don't, then I'm not gonna like share that. But like I really want to make sure that this is something that like, you know, I'm really able to convey in an effective way. And I think like the past couple of weeks, I'm like, I was like, I had a lot of different ideas, obviously, because I was really letting my mind like heal and rest. But I was like, and I came on here and I knew exactly what I was going to say today. And it feels like really nice. So, um, with all that, thank you for tuning into Life of the Germ as usual. I know it's been a few weeks, but hope you guys enjoyed, and prioritize yourself. It matters. It might not seem like it does, but when you completely lose it, you see it so black and white for what it is. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm your host, Jeremy, and I'll catch you in the next one.